The 911 Dakar we've spoken about plenty already, and as you probably know, there are only 2,500 examples to be made. So it means we're very lucky to have one here today to drive. Many have already said to us, isn't it just a collector's item? It's going to be bought by the wealthy, let's face it, and put with their collection of limited edition Porsches. And we think there will be some of them in the world, and that is unfortunate, but having just spent the day here at a military of defence facility in the UK, around these muddy roads and sand and mud ruts and all kinds of off-road fun, I can tell you that the people who can afford it are going to use this as it was intended. And we're here as well today to show you that it isn't just a paint job, it isn't just a trim level, there's a lot more to this car. You can probably see straight away it's got raised ride height, and that's a big part of it. But actually, probably the biggest part of its off-road ability comes from these special tyres. They're high profile, they're chunky thread, and they are properly suitable for mud. It's got bash plates underneath as well, so Porsche is basically saying, yes, you can go off-road with it. I'll talk a bit more about the technical specification in a moment, but it is based on the underpinnings of the Carrera 4 GTS, so it has four-wheel drive. But really, it's all about the ride height and what it can do with that. It's worth mentioning the livery. Not everybody will love it, and actually I suspect that it's probably only car enthusiasts such as myself that realise that that harks back to the Paris Dakar of 1984, and that is what Porsche is calling the car after. Back in 1984, Porsche did the unthinkable. It won the Paris Dakar in a sports car, in a very special sports car admittedly. It was the first four-wheel drive 911, and 2 years later did it again in the 959. So this is named for those cars. And a really nice feature, the number 953 there on the door, that was the model number of the original 911 that won the Paris Dakar, so it was a Type 953. That's a nice touch. You don't have to have this livery. It doesn't say Rothmans on it anymore, that wouldn't be very 2023, and Porsche would never get away with that. But it isn't just about that. You can have this car in a flat paint colour if you like, and there are other liveries as well. For our purposes today, I think it's suitable though. After stepping over the muddied door sills to get in, it's a bit of a shock to the system when you discover that the 911 Dakar is more like a GT3 inside. You've got these wonderful figure-hugging bucket seats here, and they hold you in place, and that's probably no bad thing when I show you what it's capable of in a moment. Got a beautiful Alcantara steering wheel in front of me, all the usual mod cons for a 911 here. And Porsche has ditched the rear seats in a bid to save weight. So you've got a half roll cage as well. It feels like, I suppose, a posh luxury competition car, a bit like a 911 GT3 to be fair. One major difference, there's a few 911 Dakar badges around the place, and down here in the bottom we have these rubberized floor mats. And that tells you that your feet might be muddy getting in. As in most 911s, you have this drive mode controller here in front of us, and we'll go through that in a moment. It's quite different when it's on the road. It's got a few extra driving modes, and I think it's best that we go out and show you what it can do. Where do you go to test Porsche's claims that the 911 Dakar is more than just a fancy paint job and a plaything for the rich that can afford such a thing for their collection? Well, in this case, we've gone to a bit of Ministry of Defence land in England, and it is seriously muddy, it's seriously rutted. In fact, in the sighting lap a minute ago, we got a little bit stuck. So this is a proper challenge for the car, and as you can see through these muddy ruts, despite big chunky mud tyres, I'm having to work a little bit to keep the car in a straight and narrow. Now we've got some elevations here, and now we're moving into a really sandy section, and this is a lot of fun too. They said go wild. I think it's worth me stopping for a minute and talking about the driving modes. As in a lot of 911s with the driving mode button down here, we twist it. So we have the normal wet and normal and sport. The Dakar also gets a rally mode. That sends more of the power to the rear, and it is for hooliganism basically. It's not about getting around. Then there is an off-road mode, and we've been advised keep it in that unless we're doing the drifty fun bits in the sand, which I'll try and do in a minute. And the off-road mode is raised up to its highest. The four-wheel drive system is primed and ready to go, and we go have some fun. Now, despite inside the fact that the Dakar looks a lot more like the GT3 than it does any other 911, it is in fact based on the Carrera 4 GTS. So it's got the 3 litre twin turbo flat 6 as usual, It's tuned up to 480 horsepower, so not quite as powerful as GT3 perhaps, but it's a turbocharged engine, so it's a lot more low down torque. But despite all that, because of the chunky tyres and the raised ride height, it's the slowest 911 in terms of top speed. This car is not about that at all. It's not at all slow when it comes to acceleration. And I don't think you'd take a GT3 into these conditions, would you? It just feels really, really capable. I know the big chunky mud tyres are a part of that, and you know, more besides the raised ride height, of course, it gives you more freedom, but it is more than that. It's just so much fun. And the bizarre thing is that even though it's this capable, it's still really good on the road. We drove around the normal back roads around this area a minute ago, and it is great. It is really good. The roads are wet, there was mud, and it's slippery, but it didn't matter. This thing was just so good there. So in fact, actually, I think it's almost a better road car for bad roads than any other 911. When cars came against us, we were able to go up onto the verge a little bit, not worry about getting stuck. And it's just brilliant. I will say, in the normal driving mode, the suspension is compliant enough. There's a lot more spring travel in it as well, so suspension travel is good for getting over bumps. But once you go into sport mode, it is firm still. It is very, very firm. And the rally mode, I noticed, is also really firm. So off-road is actually for getting through this difficult, tricky terrain. What I love about it is, despite the fact that you're off-road and doing some silly things in a 911, it still feels like a 911. So you've got this lovely thin steering wheel, got loads of communication through the steering, got really, really good brakes, good modulation, and it's just a laugh. So we're going to turn into rally mode here now, and let's see what it does in this open bit of land. And that is very Larry. It's just so controllable, and it's a hoot. It's so much fun. Put it back into off-road mode because what I'm about to go through here is the nasty, muddy stuff. I should say as well that the traction control is fully turned off for that drifting stuff, so it's not like it's going to do that on a public road or anything like that. And it is just silly. So much fun. And it's still finding traction there, even though I'm doing that. That's the fun thing about it. It just still manages to get the power down. So complete hooliganism. It is quite stiff in this rally mode, I must say. The suspension is quite hard, actually. As you can see, that was fun with a capital F. This is quite the car, and I think anybody who buys this and puts it in a garage and keeps it clean and keeps it in a bubble is doing it all wrong. It's probably one of the most special, memorable 911s I've driven, and one of the most memorable special 911s ever. Those 2,500 people that have bought one are very, very lucky indeed. That's our first look at the 911 Dakar. We have reviews of many more Porsches and 911s on the website if you want to go check them out. It's CompleteCar.ie, and it's a great resource for finding your next car.